it's been a week now since we painted the engine bay. I actually went on vacation for a week at the beach, went fishing for a little bit. Not too much fishing because we had the hurricane come through, so we ended up getting out of there a few days earlier than we were expecting to. But so here's where the engine bay looks right now. Paint and clear coat is all dry, and it looks absolutely amazing. Not sure how well this is going to show up in camera, but the clear coat is just an absolute perfect shine on here. I'm not going to have to do any more work on this engine bay at all, as far as the paint, cut and polish or anything like that. So it's perfect the way it is. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start doing a little bit of reassembly here. As you can see with the green painter's paper back here, I'm going to be doing a template for the firewall because I have to cut out new firewall insulation. Mitsubishi doesn't make the firewall insulation anymore, so I'm having to make my own custom piece. So I need a template because there's lots of holes and cutouts in the back. So I've got the basic shape right now with just the two upper bolts there and the heater hoses popping through. And now what I do is I go in all the holes I had taped up for paint. I've gone to remove the tape on that. And then we come to the inside here. We turn our little LED light on. Shut the lights off in the shop. And now I am able to trace around all the spots that I will need to cut out for my template. So I'm going to go ahead and work on this. So I got the template all done, got all my holes and everything all cut out where I need them to be. I did test this on the back of the firewall, so I do know everything is where it needs to be, and all the holes are cut out perfectly and all that. So we are good to go with this template. So what I'm going to be using for the firewall is an insulation mat from Cool It. It's a Thermotech, so basically it's a double-sided aluminum with a fiberglass inner barrier on there. So pretty much about the same thing as what the stock one was. So I actually have two kits of this because the first one they sent me, as you can see, they taped over the window, which means that it got stuck, the tape got stuck to the insulation foam, which caused it to tear as I was trying to get it out of the box. So what I'll be doing is I'll be testing this one out here, and if I can get this to fit within the template area, without that tear showing, then I'll go ahead and use this one. If not, I've got a spare one here that they sent me for the issues that was with this one here. So we'll go ahead and lay this one out. So the perforated side is the side that is going to face outward. And looking at this, it looks like I am going to clear my little issues up here. So I shouldn't have a problem there. Now, what I want to do is I want to keep a nice natural edge. So the bottom of the mat itself is straight, and I want to keep the bottom of my template completely straight. So what I'll do is I'll line this template up to the bottom here and over to the side as far as I can, and then we'll go ahead and apply a couple pieces of tape here to hold it in place. So. good. So we now have our pattern traced out. So I can go ahead and remove the paper pattern here and get this thing out of the way. So as you can see, we have our entire pattern all laid out. So for cutting, I'm going to be using a breakaway stainless steel blade. But yeah, let's try some scissors here. We now have a firewall insulation in place. Granted, it's a little hanging off and everything right now, but that's about how it secures. What'll happen is as we get more things bolted in here, it'll press up and it'll hold that insulation in there better. But in the meantime, I think it came out great. All my holes are open where I need them to be. Yeah, so now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start working on these brake lines, getting the brake lines run back in, because what I want to do is I actually want to finish off the engine bay before I go any farther on the rest of the paint on the car. So that way I can button up everything that's going on there, get the engine back into the car, get everything buttoned up, and it will free up a lot of the room I have in the shop right now for other stuff I'll need for later as it comes to painting and stuff like that. Because right now my shelves, all the storage shelves I have in the garage are all full of engine bay parts and stuff like that. So if I get in the engine bay, I'll put back together, engine drop back in, you know, all the firewall, the coolant stuff, everything like that. I'll put back in, then I'll have all the free room I need on the shelves to finish up pulling the rest of the car apart. And I came to the conclusion basically, because before I went on vacation, I pulled the passenger side door off, which you may have noticed, so I'll go ahead and show you now. Went ahead and pulled the passenger side door off, and that's when I realized I'm not going to have enough room for all the parts I've got to take off. So yeah, so I'll go ahead and I'll start getting the engine bay all back together. We're going to go ahead and start with the brake lines. So I've been doing a little work on the engine bay and got the brake lines started off on it, running them out. I am waiting on some clamps and some spark plug wire separators, which I'll use to keep the brake lines separated from each other so they're not rubbing against. Since there are braided stainless steel lines now, they can cut right through metal like a saw blade. So right now they're just sort of they're plumbed in, but they're not completely finished yet. So I should hopefully have those parts in by the end of the week, and then I'll get those buttoned up. But here's how we stand right now. So stainless steel brake lines are run, driver's side and passenger side are run in, and they are connected to the main lines. Portioning valve is installed. Rear brake lines have been run and installed into the portioning valve. Then my two lines coming out, that'll be going to the master cylinder once I get that installed. So right now what I'm going to be working on is, while I'm waiting on the rest of the parts to come in for the brake lines, I need to get this body wiring harness in that includes the fuse box that'll be sitting over basically where that big hole is, right up in here, because the body wiring harness on this is basically a giant loop. It starts at the driver's side, loops all the way around and over in the passenger side, and the fuse box is part of that. So I want to go ahead and get that installed there. Which will also mean I need to go through and all the wiring that I need to remove, like from the ABS system and stuff like that, I need to go in and trim those wires back. I'm probably gonna have to do some wire extending also, since I'm not gonna be moving the fuse box back to the to the normal spot. I'm going to be sinking it down lower into here, just sort of flushing this off, and it's going to block this hole off a little bit. Then I'll have the wiring come out and wrap down like it normally does. So I'll have to get the wiring stripped out for that to finish that off. So, and just another quick little tip for everybody. Since I did just finish painting this engine bay and I don't really want to mess it all up, I went to Harbor Freight and picked up these movers blankets. Now these moving blankets, they were coupon for $2.99 a piece. So they're real nice and soft. And then I picked up just some regular ceramic block magnets, and I've got those going around. So that will help ensure that I don't get any scratches and chips in the paint while I'm working on the wiring and everything like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started on the wiring harness, and we'll go from there. So it's been a few hours now, still working on this wiring harness, and here's where we are. So I've gotten all my leads traced back. I've gotten a lot of them removed. Pretty much had to strip the wiring harness all the way down, which I expected to do. So I still got to go through the driver's side, finish that out. I think there's just these two traces right here, which I'll follow them back to finish that out. That's just what's left of the pop-up headlights that were removed for the pop-up headlight motors. All the ABS stuff's already been removed, so I'll finish those off, and then I'll go and we'll work on getting the harness positioned in here properly. I'll make myself some tape leads, which basically means I'll take like these here, and wherever I need to have like a wire hang out, I'll tape it off there so I know, so when I rewrap the harness, I know to leave these hanging out and not to stretch it out, so I have enough slack for plugging things in. So we'll go ahead and we'll get that finished off, and then we'll get this thing wrapped up, and we'll start work on getting it mounted in the car. Wires that we pulled out, depinned, any relays that weren't needed for the ABS system have all been removed. So, and over here on the table is the wiring harness, what is left of it. So, yeah. So I did go through on the fuse box, and the ABS relay, the two ABS relays have been depinned. All the wires have been removed. The ABS fuse has been removed, along with the two other lines here, which was the one line here, which was the pop-up motor for the pop-up headlights. So all that wiring has been removed. The one thing I did realize I didn't remove, which is this wire here. There's actually two of them in here, which is the wheel speed sensors for the ABS system. I thought this was kind of weird because usually this is the kind of wire you see with an O2 harness or O2 sensor. It's usually a separate braided type of line because it's shielded. But then I realized that it was cut on one end and it was over by the wheel sensor, or over by the wheel. So that's when I realized this was the ABS wheel sensor. So I checked it out in the manual and confirmed it. So I need to go back through the harness. I should have two of these in here, one for the driver's side, one for the passenger side. I believe this one here, yeah, this one here is actually the front O2 sensor, because the front O2 sensor goes through the main body harness, whereas the rear O2 sensor goes to the engine harness. So I'll get this one removed. I'll get the passenger side one removed, and then we'll go through and we'll start marking the spots out where I need to start taping, and then we'll go ahead and we'll get this harness finished up. There are a few things I need to do first. I need to add in some wiring for the HID lights, because the HIDs I use a relay circuit, so I'm going to have a main power line running between the passenger side and the driver's side headlights. I did remove that wire because it was just zip tied to the other one, but I'm going to integrate that into this harness as I got it apart. So I'll run through and clean up these headlight circuits here, and get my main power wires all wired in. Got the wiring harness in place here. I'm just doing a test fit right now since I'm going to have to build some brackets to hold in the fuse box because I am shifting the fuse box down, as you can see here. Usually it's sitting like way up here, but I'm actually going to sink it down pretty much right to where it's at right now. So I'm going to build some side brackets to connect here to here, and then on the back side there'll be one that goes up to hold it in place. But as it looks right now, all the wiring is going to fit perfectly. It's not wrapped yet. I wanted to make sure that everything fit in place before I did the full wire wrap on it. But as it looks right now with all the test fitting everything, it's going to fit perfectly in here. So I'm going to go ahead and get some brackets cut out from aluminum to mount this, to get this box in place. And then we'll drill and tap holes into the frame to get it mounted, and then for the back side also. And I'll go ahead and pull those off and powder coat them for later. But as for now, it looks like the wiring harness is going to be perfect just the way it is. So the brackets for the fuse box are all done. I got them all out of the powder coating. Got them all mounted up using stainless steel hardware to secure them to both the frame and the back of the headlight bucket there, as you can see. They really look good. They really came out really nice. I'm really impressed with that. So they'll mount up perfectly on there. So now what we'll go ahead and do is we'll get the fuse box mounted up into place, and then we'll start working on getting the lines, or the rest of the wiring harness installed. I picked these up here. These are a zip tie that mounts in for hole mounts. The original stock harness uses these, and they're kind of hard to find. I actually had to order these from China. They're not the best, but they'll do. They're a nice quick release on it. But I'll get these in place, all the spots, all the mounting holes where the harness is going to go. And then I'll get everything lined up after I get the fuse box mounted up there. And then we'll get everything secured down and finish getting this body harness in.